Well, good morning, everyone, to our community of ag research enthusiasts in the state of Michigan and beyond. My name is George Smith. I have the pleasure of serving as the director of Michigan State University AgBioResearch, and it's my pleasure to welcome today Nancy Nyquist, the executive director of the Michigan Tree Fruit Commission. And we're going to have a great conversation about the Michigan Tree Fruit Commission, the support they provide for research at Michigan State University and talk about some of the impacts of the work we do together. So, Nancy, welcome. Look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, George. I look forward to it as well. It's nice to be with you.
All right. So, before we get into the sort of backbone of our conversation, can you provide a little bit of background about the Michigan Tree Fruit Commission for those that aren't familiar?
Sure.
What it is, its goals, and a little bit of the history?
Absolutely. So the Tree Fruit Commission was started in 2014, and a group of grower organizations. We talk about this all the time, what a great partnership it is between the apple, cherry, peach, and plum organizations and growers, along with the university, with the MSU, and the MDARD is really where it came out of. And the purpose of the commission is to address critical tree fruit research and extension infrastructure priorities. And at the time when the Tree Fruit Commission started, there were leaders that were there in these roles before you and I were in these chairs that really led the charge and went to the legislature and asked for support because extension at the time, I believe those dollars had been cut about 50% from the state budget. And we were in, a recession at the time. And so really tough funding decisions had to be made. But the group came together and went to the legislature and fought for the importance of tree fruit research and extension in our state. And fortunately, we're able to get an appropriation at the time, a one-time appropriation to help get the group started and then really help with those infrastructure needs once we got up and running on our own.
Yeah, Nancy, I was very new in my role at AgBioResearch at the time, but I remember enough about what happened to know what a real lifesaver the efforts of the Michigan Tree Fruit Commission were for the reasons you described. We were dealing with tough budget times and, to be frank, facing very difficult decisions.
Mhm.
Um, our ability to maintain that critical research infrastructure, the four research stations at the time that support research and outreach efforts in apples, cherries, peaches, and plums, like you described, was in jeopardy. And so we were at the precipice of having to make very difficult decisions in terms of closing stations. And our ability to meet the needs of the tree fruit community, which is such an important contributor to the Michigan economy and the agricultural economy, was in jeopardy. So I really appreciate the leadership of the folks involved. I'm not going to mention them all because I don't want to leave anyone out. There was many people instrumental in that effort, and the vision to go to the legislature and secure support to help invest back in this infrastructure and support research was, again, I'm going to use the same term again, a lifesaver. And the really exciting and rewarding part of that story is that mission and those investments have continued to today through the partnership of your organization with AgBioResearch and the investments you make now, even this is 14, 12 years later in supporting research. That has, my personal opinion, has really amplified the impact of the work our scientists do and our ability to solve problems that really make a difference for on the bottom line of this important industry in the state. So I'm incredibly thankful to your predecessors involved. I'm incredibly thankful to you. I'm incredibly thankful to all of our great growers who are part of the commission. And I'm thankful to the industry as a whole because it's their dollars that help provide the funding that's invested in our infrastructure and programs.
Absolutely. We function just like so many other checkoff groups in the state and use those grower dollars. We don't take any funding decisions that we make. We take them very seriously to make sure that the highest and best use of those dollars and resources goes to where the need is most needed. And, I'm really proud to say that since the commission started back in 2014, we have invested over $4.6 million in station support and over 1.2 million in other investments, including things such as making sure faculty or extension folks have the ability to travel and stay on the cutting edge and go to conferences and network with colleagues across the country. So almost a $6 million investment so far, I think, really is a testament to both of our organizations and those that have been involved for this amount of time. So it's really exciting, and I look forward to. I've been in this role about 3 years, and I know I currently look forward to one of my favorite meetings is the negotiation meeting that we have with what the projects are and what the needs are from each station and researcher and faculty and extension folks, and come together where we are saying what we're willing to support and what you all are able to help us support as well. So it's really that great partnership and great relationship, and that's open and frank. And we just really do, I think, a great job. And being one of, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Tree Fruit Commission is one of the only groups, if not the only group like this in the country, that has the collaboration from multiple sources of
Uh,
industry with the university, with MDARD, and multiple growers. So I think we're really unique from that standpoint.
Now, boy, spot on, Nancy. I couldn't agree more. Another great example of partnerships and how partnerships and working together not only make Michigan agriculture special, but sort of really ensure that return on investment and that the funds are directed for the intended outcome. And I love that meeting you referred to as well, because I learn a lot, and frankly, we learn a lot from this perspective of the growers that are actually doing the work in the industry in terms of what are the problems, but also what are the best tools, best infrastructure investments to
Mm.
get the job done, and are also relevant to real life. So that perspective is so valuable. And again, another example of what makes this partnership very special.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
All right. So let's kind of pivot and talk a little bit more big picture. So from the perspective of the tree fruit industry and the growers represented on the Tree Fruit Commission, what are the specific outcomes or benefits that are expected from MSU research?
I think what is expected, the commission, is not a shy group. They know, the MSU folks, what the researchers, the extension educators, they know our growers and our growers know them. And especially when they're on a commission, they know them because they're doing work on their farms, they're doing work with them, they're practicing new techniques and things together. And I think that listening to one another and hearing, like you said,
Uh-huh.
that practical out in my orchard doing this work isn't going to work. It's not practical to take it maybe from a
Right,
lab or an
right.
on-farm experience. So I really think what our members expect is, again, that honest, open relationship and that knowing that we have some of the very best and brightest doing the work here for us for the industry that care about the industry and that want to see the tree fruit industry continue to grow and thrive in our state.
Well said. Well said. Again, it's that interaction, the industry coming forward with problems, having the relationship, the direct conversations with the investigators, and working together to solve those problems. Sometimes the work starts on campus. A lot of the work before it reaches commercial orchards is done
Mhm.
at the very tree fruit research stations, which the Tree Fruit Commission really stepped forward and helped us out with over a decade ago when we were in crisis. So
Right.
yeah, it's that interaction, that partnership that's really critical to the intended outcomes. So, yeah. So, talking a little bit more again on the tree fruit industry's perspective on some of our established programs that benefit the tree fruit industry, like Project Green and the Agriculture Resiliency Program. Can you talk about the value of those programs to tree fruit growers?
Absolutely. Project Green, I'll start there, is a tremendous program with a history that is so important and so critical to our tree fruit industry. Um, it's it's a project, it's a program that involves really, again, those early, perhaps stage problems that challenges that we're trying to solve, and using those resources to start maybe the next big lift in the industry. So Project Green has been a resource and a tool that the Tree Fruit Commission has been very much supportive of, and know that we would not have the kind of success on the farm that we wouldn't have without Project Green. The climate resiliency, I know there's what I think is so exciting about the climate resiliency grant program is the really multidisciplinary way approach to it and multi-crop approach that is being taken. I know there's some tree fruit and small fruit
Uh,
research being done right now, and you may not always think those go together, but often they may share some of the same disease or pest
uh,
resistance, or
uh,
require some of the same kinds of work from a blueberry to a cherry, which aren't necessarily at all the same. So
uh,
I think both of those programs, both Project Green and the Climate Resiliency Program, have grant programs have been worth their weight in gold times a million, and are so important and critical to our industry. And I think they're both, I would say, not only just to the tree fruit industry, but to our whole specialty crop industry as a whole here in Michigan. Those two programs are invaluable. And
right on.
I know Project Green this last year had a record number of
Yeah. Yeah.
applications and record number of
Good.
dollars being requested.
Good.
And that
Yeah.
just goes to show you how important it is, not only from an industry standpoint, but
Uh,
also to the researcher, the
right.
faculty standpoint, that they value it as well.
Yeah, great point. Project Green is designed to provide a mechanism for our research to address the immediate problems of industry, which change. They can change on a yearly
Mhm.
basis. Sometimes they change every couple years. And so that strong response from our faculty is also a recognition that our faculty understand what the role of the land grant institution is, what the role of ag bioresearch and extension collectively, what those roles are to do research that makes a difference and solve problems impacting Michigan agriculture and then get it out to the people who can use it, the role of our partner organization, MSU Extension. And you're right, the Agricultural Resiliency Program is the same concept, but it addresses overarching issues that aren't specific to cherries or aren't specific to blueberries, but that impact all of our commodities, issues like soil health, efficient use of water, and so on. And these programs, again, I like to brag about things being special here, but are two other examples of what makes Michigan agriculture and the relationship with the land grant institution at MSU so special. So, are there any examples you can share of when MSU research has provided a tangible benefit to tree fruit
Oh
industry?
gosh, there's so many.
You're right, right.
There's so many. It's be hard to pick just one, but I think one thing that I'm really looking forward to that's on the horizon,
Hmm.
um, to go a little bit forward, is something that we've been, I think, as you know, a big advocate for, is getting the EnviroWeather system
Right, right.
into a mobile
Uh,
application so that it can be used not on a desktop or a laptop in an office, but on a tractor in the field, in the truck, out in your orchard, maybe five
uh,
miles away from your farm.
right.
And so we're really excited that that has been, it's in development, and it's
Uh,
in the testing phases.
yeah.
And so I think that's going to be really something that's going to be a tremendous benefit,
Uh,
not only to the tree fruit industry, but again,
right,
once it gets further rolled out to all of
right.
to all users, it'll be a tremendous benefit. But I think also, there's been a lot of work done on spotted winged Drosophila,
Hmm.
SWD, that
Hmm.
affects our cherry industry so
Hmm.
much. That was a pest that came into Michigan just a little bit before the Tree Fruit Commission existed in around
Yeah,
2010,
yeah.
2012. So it's still really, even though we know a lot about it, there still is a lot to learn. And so I really credit so much of the great work that we're doing at Michigan State on helping us fight and the challenges that spotted wing Drosophila brings. And also, we things like bird netting, knowing how to properly net
Uh-huh.
trees and
Mhm.
being supportive of that kind of work, and also
Mhm.
supporting things like apple scab. And,
Sure.
there's been so many things that have been helpful on the
Mhm.
farm. I think if you asked,
Mhm.
if you brought 5 growers or asked each one of the commissioners that same question, you would probably get 7 different
Uh-huh.
answers.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it really is hard to choose because, the work that's done is far-reaching in scope, and there's many examples of impact. And you hit on some great ones. I'm glad you mentioned the mobile app for EnviroWeather. We're this close. We're this
Right.
close to being ready. So stay tuned. Not too far in the distant future, we'll be launching that. And really, really excited about that as well. And the impact it's going to have on really all of our tree fruit growers and beyond. It's going to be big.
Right. Well, and I think what's I like about it is it's a
Uh,
need that
uh-huh,
growers brought to MSU and
uh-huh,
to the Tree Fruit Commission
uh-huh.
and said, and to the Michigan Hort Society as well. But
Right,
we've got other partners here too. But
right.
um, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, we were told it couldn't happen.
Hmm.
And I think again, it goes back to that partnership and that resiliency of both of our organizations
Hmm.
and the relationship that we have to say, hey, let's
Right,
figure out how we can make
right.
this work. And also because technology keeps emerging and evolving and
You're
changing,
right.
that it's,
You're right.
I think that's that really to me is
Right.
something that's very exciting, and I look forward to that, and I look forward to continue,
Uh-huh.
the support that we have for the different stations,
Yeah.
whether it be renovating pesticide
Hmm.
building or
Hmm.
wet lab renovations,
Right.
irrigation. It's just all
Uh-huh.
of those things that go into successful tree fruit farming.
Yeah. Right on, right on. And I also want to give a shout out to the Michigan Tree Fruit Commission for their willingness to invest in some infrastructure that's, you might say, is a little bit cutting edge, but
Mhm.
nevertheless important. A couple examples of projects is the support the Tree Fruit Commission provided to a project at the West Central Station to install solar panels with fruit trees underneath.
Right.
Lots of questions about solar panels. One of the most controversial
Yes.
topics we run into, but a lot of interest. And are there ways for renewable energy of that nature and agriculture to coexist in a mutually beneficial fashion? Some of this work is being done in Europe already, but Europe is not Michigan. So having a site to actually try it in Michigan and look at the impacts on, all the things that are important to, having a productive orchard is really important. And then a demonstration site where growers can come and see for themselves. So that's one example. The other one I'm really excited about is the investment that was made in the autonomous sprayer.
Yes.
Again, state-of-the-art technology, lots of concerns in specialty crops, and tree fruit is no exception about the needs for labor. And so you hear about this, a machine that can just go out and spray orchards on its own. Well, boy, that sounds great, but does it really work?
Does it
And
really work?
what is involved? And that's a great role that MSU can play in being at the forefront in testing that technology, learning the do's and don'ts, and providing the information so growers in a commercial setting can make their own informed decisions about whether that investment is worth it or not, and not just relying on the perspective of the individuals who have a job to do and are selling the product.
Right. Well, and I think it also, to be able to have, each of the stations and industry folks have a field day and being able to see that
Exactly.
autonomous
Exactly.
sprayer, for some producers, it might be like a head scratching thing, like, well, no, that's not going to happen. That's not
Yeah.
going to work.
Right.
But to be able to go out and see it work
Right.
and ask the questions about the testing that was done
Uh-huh.
and all of those
Yeah,
things. So those
exactly.
field days that you all host really are so important and informative to the grower community. I know, again, I learn something new every time, but it's also still, I know the growers do as the producers do as well.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So, Nancy, we've talked a lot about research, the importance of research. You've given some great examples, how we partner together with the Tree Fruit Commission to support research. But if growers had to carry the load all on their own in support of research, that would be a tough road. Can you talk a little bit about what you would say to legislators to advocate on behalf of continued funding for ag bioresearch and extension and the state and or federal investments?
Yeah, George, I think the tree fruit perspective is a unique one because of where we were when the Tree Fruit
Mhm.
Commission started and the support that the legislature was not giving at the time,
Mhm.
and that we had to come in and step in as an industry and help support the university and the pieces of the university that were so important to us. What I would say is to legislators is that without the station's work, without AgBio's work, we would be in Michigan agriculture is a very tough business. It's growing, it's thriving in so many ways, but the margins are so short and so tight with input costs that we need the research to stay on the cutting edge so that we know what the next consumer thing is, what the consumers are going to be wanting. Without ag bio research and extension services, we would I would hate to say we would fail to exist, but we would fail to exist in the fashion that we do today. It's just so important to have research dollars so that we can, make sure that we're planting the right things, the soil is healthy, we're not overusing water, we're really conserving the resources and
Mhm.
producing high quality product for people around the world. And without that research and without the work that MSU does on a whole, it would not be nearly as robust as it is today.
Well said, well said. Yeah, I really appreciate your comments. Even thinking a little bit further at the macro level or the national level, we pride ourselves in Michigan on the diversity of agriculture, and specialty crops are so foundational to that. And when I start to look at some of the national trends, I'd say I won't say it's a little disturbing, it's more than disturbing. Everyone recognizes the importance of eating better, and I'm a poster child for that. I have my own challenges and, have to work on it, but nationally, the movement to make America healthy again or thinking about food as medicine, fresh fruit is a big part of that. And the
Very big part
scary
of it.
and the scary thing to me is looking at the current statistics where over 50% of the fresh fruit that's consumed in this country isn't produced in this country. And I've
Right.
heard statistics that by 2030, it may be as high as 80%. If we can't produce our own food, just ag bioresearch, the opinion of George Smith here, we're in trouble. So that
George,
makes it even more important.
I've heard very similar numbers that you've heard, and it is incredibly disturbing,
Yeah,
especially when you think about we know how we grow our food. We
right.
know in many cases know your food, know your farmer. You may
Hmm.
from your local farmers market or your retailer.
Hmm.
You know where your food is coming from, and we know how that it's been harvested in a safe and appropriate manner. We know it has been treated with the most tested and most, rigorous standards from any kind of a pesticide or herbicide applications. Fruit coming in from other countries, we have no idea what their standards are, or that it's been harvested in an appropriate
Mhm.
manner.
Uh-huh.
We hear horror stories often about, things, and it's not always we can validate it, but I think with we can't produce and raise our own food, that's an issue of national security,
Right.
plain
Right.
and simple. If you can't do that, and now, granted, do we want to have certain product? We want the availability of produce
Sure.
all year
Sure.
round too.
Sure. Right. Right.
If we ate like our ancestors did and only ate what was fresh and in season, or what you were able to can
Mhm.
yourself,
Mhm.
so I think you have to look at not only the whole fresh market, but also the
Right.
fresh processed market is very
Right.
important to our industries. About
Yeah.
half of our apples in Michigan get processed. And we produce about 75% of the US tart cherry
Hmm.
in Michigan.
Hmm.
And, most of that goes into the pies and dried snacks and juice market too. So I think we've got to look at not only the whole market, the whole fresh market, but also the real processed market.
Really important point, Nancy. I couldn't agree more. That's a really foundational component of the industry as a whole, and probably one we being ag bioresearch don't talk enough about is the importance of the processing sector and the work we can do to support the processing sector for all the reasons you described. So yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. Well, we're kind of getting close to our allotted time. Any last words or anything you want to share with us before we wrap this great Ag Bioresearch podcast up?
Well, first, I want to thank you, George, and your team for putting this together. And it's always fun to get together and chat with you about a variety of things. And today, Tree Fruit was a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of fun working with this industry. They're a great team, great group to work with. And I just thank you for all of your efforts and the partnership, and all of the work that we get to do together to support this industry. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nancy.